hotshot. What? I said, hotshot.
The original Robocop is a bona fide classic that shoots its way to greatness with both style and substance. This sci-fi gem serves up a deliciously twisted concept of a half-human, half-machine law enforcer roaming around the crime-infested streets of Detroit. It's like Dirty Harry meets the $6 Million Man, but on steroids. But Robocop is not just a mindless action movie, it's also got brains too, delving into the dark underbelly of corporate greed, corruption, and the loss of humanity. Think Blade Runner with a side of scathing social commentary. From our stoic hero, Alex Murphy, transformed into the ultimate crime-fighting machine, to the slimy corporate baddie, Dick Jones. They leap off the screen and embed themselves in your memory like a bullet in ballistic gel. Director Paul Verhoeven blended genres like a master mixologist, serving up equal parts sci-fi, action, and pitch-black comedy. But there have been many other movies that came before and even after Robocop that have the same elevated taste in story and style. So, in today's episode, we will explore 11 of these gems that any movie buff worth their salt will cherish. But before we get into our explanation, we do have one very small request. If you like our content, then please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is just one small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thanks! Now, let's begin. Number 1. Dredd, 2012. In a desolate future America, where the sun sets on a radioactive wasteland, the East Coast harbors a sprawling, lawless megalopolis known as Mega City 1. Here, amidst the chaos and anarchy, a grim order prevails, controlled by the elite urban cops known as the Judges. They are the judge, jury, and instant executioners, their presence striking fear into the hearts of criminals. At the apex of their force stands Dredd, the embodiment of justice, whose very name reverberates through the city's darkest alleys. But as Mega City 1 grapples with a sinister drug plague, its denizens are enslaved by the mind-altering substance called slow-mo. Amidst this setup, we meet Cassandra Anderson, a rookie with a unique mutation granting her extraordinary psychic abilities. Tasked with evaluating her skills, Dredd's routine day takes a treacherous turn when a heinous crime pulls them into the heart of a forbidden territory, a towering 200-story vertical slum. Here, a former prostitute turned drug lord, the ruthless Mama, reigns supreme, her grip unyielding. As Mama's clutches tighten, seizing control of the compound's nerve center, a brutal battle begins between the good guys and the bad guys. Dredd and Anderson find themselves trapped, outnumbered, and left with no escape. Amidst the rising body count, survival becomes a relentless struggle against insurmountable odds. Both Dredd and Robocop take place in dystopian futures, where the main characters are law enforcement officers with enhanced abilities. In Dredd, Judge Dredd is a highly skilled and heavily armed officer with the authority to act as judge, jury, and executioner. In Robocop, Alex Murphy is transformed into a cyborg law enforcement officer after being critically injured on duty. Furthermore, both movies explore themes of corruption and the influence of powerful corporations. But I think that the most astounding similarity between these two is how they both seek to serve as a social commentary on both society and also criticizing aspects of society. Number 2. Timecop, 1994. In a southern town during the Civil War, a time-traveling gunslinger shows up and gives 5 Confederate soldiers a taste of modern firepower. He's not there for a history lesson, but for their shining shipment of gold. Fast forward to 1994, when George Spada, a man from the Justice Department, pitches an idea to the Senate about the Time Enforcement Commission, or the TEC, a secret agency of police time travel. They're convinced of illegal time traveling when evidence of a stolen Confederate gold funding arms trafficking pops up. Senator McComb eagerly volunteers to oversee the TEC, and Eugene Matuzak becomes the first commissioner. Max Walker, a tough cop, contemplates joining the TEC, but ends up facing a tragic explosion that leaves him widowed and nearly dead himself. Cut to 10 years later, and Walker is a seasoned TEC agent. His mission? Travel back to 1929 and stop his ex-partner from manipulating the stock market crash. There, Walker discovers a sinister connection between his partner and McComb, who is running for president. Things get intense as Atwood, fearing erasure from history, takes a leap of faith, quite literally. Walker catches him mid-fall and zaps them back to the future. But Atwood won't testify against McComb, and he's sent back to his fateful dive. Walker and Matuzak know McComb is a crook, but they need concrete proof. Even fans of Jean-Claude Van Damme find it difficult to say if Timecop was necessarily a good movie or a bad one, but one thing is for sure, the Timecop was definitely entertaining. Apart from themes of high-level corruption, abuse of power, and the protagonist's unforgiving and relentless desire for justice, Timecop and Robocop also share the grief that a man feels when he's left bereft of his woman. And then, of course, we can't go without saying that the titles of these two films are fairly similar.
7. Go to hell or go to heaven.
Number 3. Blade Runner, 1982. In the mind-bending world of Blade Runner, humanity has cooked up some fancy bioengineered beings called replicants. These replicants are made to look and act just like us, and they're almost as good as pretending to be human as some of our favorite actors of Hollywood. The only way to tell them apart is some nifty psychological tests, but trouble soon starts brewing when a gang of these replicants, the real rebels without a human cause, decide to give their creators the big old middle finger. These bad guys and girls are given a rather harsh eviction notice and banished from Earth and are only allowed to frolic in outer space. It is at this point that we meet Rick Deckard, a Blade Runner whose job is to hunt down these rebellious replicants on Earth and give them a one-way ticket back to their cosmic playground. As fate would have it, Deckard falls head over heels with a replicant named Rachel. She's got the looks, the charm, and a whole lot of false memories that make her believe that she's as human as the next guy, or girl for that matter. Now, Deckard finds himself torn between duty and his growing feelings for Rachel. I think that both Blade Runner and Robocop are two films that have done justice to themes of conflicting notions of humanity and an identity crisis. In Blade Runner, the replicants question their own existence and grapple with their emotions, while in Robocop, our cyborg crusader struggles with his own humanity as he navigates his new cyborg nature. Furthermore, both films delve into the moral and ethical dilemmas surrounding the use of advanced technology and its impact on society. Blade Runner raises the question about the treatment of artificial beings and the boundaries of human empathy, while Robocop examines issues of corporate greed and the consequences of unchecked power. Number 4. Total Recall, 1990. The movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger as Douglas Quaid, a construction worker plagued by dreams of the Red Planet, and a mysterious woman. Determined to uncover the truth, he heads to Recall, a company that plants memories like nobody's business. Just as Quaid is about to have his memory implanted with a thralling Mars adventure, he goes all-out Bruce Lee on the Recall crew, convinced that they're trying to suppress his real memories. Now on the run, Quaid discovers that his loving wife is actually an undercover agent sent to monitor him. As if that wasn't enough, he finds out that he was once named Hauser and worked for Cohagen, the tyrannical ruler of the 21st century Mars. Furthermore, it was Cohagen who brainwashed Hauser to become Quaid. With a suitcase full of supplies and a video message from his former self, Quaid embarks on a mission to Mars to stop the tyrant Cohagen. Along the way, he meets Melina, quite literally the woman of his dreams, who thinks he's still working for the bad guy. In the polluted district of Venusville, Quaid faces off against Richter, Cohagen's right-hand man. With the help of mutant rebels and their psychic leader Quaido, Quaid uncovers Cohagen's dirty secret, a super ancient alien reactor that could save the day or bring down the whole Turbinia monopoly. Both Total Recall and Robocop explore what it means to have your memory manipulated at the hands of some overarching villain. And of course, there is the whole body horror element with a splash of biopunk. But Total Recall does take it up a notch, with scenes where people are growing out of their brothers. Not for the faint of heart, I suppose. But I have to admit, the Total Recall is one of Arnold's best performances, where he could actually show off his acting skills rather than just his chiseled body. Number 5. Ghost in the Shell, 2017. In the not-so-distant future, Ghost in the Shell takes us on a cybernetic thrill ride. Mira Killian, a young woman whose body was left in shambles after a cyber-terrorist attack, becomes the guinea pig for an audacious experiment. Hanka Robotics, the masterminds behind it all, sticks Mira's brain into a super-cool artificial body. Fast forward a year, and Mira, now known as Major Killian, is a top-tier operative in the Counter-Terrorism Squad Section 9, with her trusty teammates, Bato and Tagusa, and of course their no-nonsense leader, Chief Aramaki. They're ready to kick some cybercriminal butt. When a mysterious hacker named Kuzi wreaks havoc, Major goes rogue and delves deep into the cyber abyss for answers. But the hacker strikes back, leaving Major damaged, and Batu with a serious case of exploding eyes. As the team uncovers a web of corporate secrets and a trail of dead scientists, Major begins questioning her own existence. Turns out, her memories might not be as real as she once thought. Things get even messier when her creator, Dr. Owlett, spills the beans and reveals some shocking truths. With her identity in flux and enemies closing in, Major must unravel the conspiracy and confront the powers that be. This Scarlett Johansson film is a sci-fi thrill ride filled with mind-bending twists, high-tech action, and a badass heroine determined to uncover her true self. It's almost as if Robocop was envisioned by a veteran manga writer. I mean, from protagonists and augmented bodies to high-octane action sequences, Ghost in the Shell has everything a futuristic sci-fi movie should have. But if you need just one reason to watch it, then it must be Miss Johansson herself. Number 6. Demolition Man, 1993. In a gritty 1996, Simon Phoenix goes on a criminal rampage, taking hostages and giving the cops a run for their money. But then, we have John Spartan, a veteran cop with a knack for leaving chaos in his wake. You know, he's kind of like the Jaegers or Superman, who simply just destroy the city in order to save it. He goes rogue to take down Phoenix, but things take a tragic turn when the hostages end up as collateral damage. Both men end up in a deep freeze, locked away in Cairo prison for their crimes. Fast forward to 2032, and San Angeles is a shining utopia thanks to the mastermind Dr. Raymond Cocteau. But trouble brews when Phoenix is mysteriously released and resumes his killing spree, leaving a trail of bewildered officers in his wake. We then meet Lieutenant Lunina Huxley, a starry-eyed cop with a passion for the past. She convinces the higher-ups to bring Spartan back from the icy depths, knowing that he's the only one who can outsmart Phoenix. But here's the twist. Spartan finds himself in a sanitized society where even the smallest pleasures are outlawed. That's right, it's all tofu burgers and etiquette police. Meanwhile, some view Spartan as a relic of savagery, while Huxley idolizes his raw, unfiltered approach to justice. As Spartan battles to bring down Phoenix, he'll shatter the sanitized facade of San Angeles and remind everyone that sometimes you need a bit of demolition to save the day. This fast-paced action romp is all about explosive showdowns, a clash of ideologies, and plenty of one-liners. Much like Robocop, the Italian stallion, Sylvester Stallone, who plays Spartan, is taken out of commission and is reactivated to continue his fight against crime, just like Murphy when he faced a more brutal fate in Robocop before becoming the cyborg hero. To be honest, Demolition Man was not exactly a critically acclaimed movie, but then it didn't want itself to be that. It was meant to serve as a 50-course meal of entertainment, and that's exactly what it did. Number 7. Escape from New York, 1981. In the crime-ridden world of 1997, Manhattan has transformed into a maximum security prison. When the president's plane crashes in this urban jungle, the clever prison warden, Hawk, strikes a deal with the notorious one-eyed bandit, Snake Plissken. If Snake can rescue the president and his vital tape within 23 hours, he will earn his freedom. To make sure Snake doesn't slack off, Hawk implants a lethal time bomb in his bloodstream. I guess you could say that's motivation enough. Snake lands his plane on the iconic World Trade Center, only to discover that the tracking device has been mysteriously removed from the president. Luckily, he crosses paths with an eccentric taxi driver, conveniently named Cabby, who becomes an unexpected ally. Together, they learn that the president has fallen into the clutches of the infamous warlord, the Duke. With time ticking away and his life on the line, Snake must reluctantly team up with his backstabbing ex-partner Brian and his toughest-nails squeeze Maggie. It's a race against the clock as they navigate the treacherous streets of Manhattan to rescue the president and secure their own survival. Brace yourself for action-packed thrills, clever escapes, and plenty of one-liners in this thrilling battle for freedom and redemption. As you can see, much before Gerard Butler started eliminating members of terrorist organizations to save US presidents, Kurt Russell's Snake Plissken had already saved and extracted a POTUS from the world's largest penitentiary. While the story of the film is way different than Robocop's, Escape from New York does share some of the same elements. Much like they did for The Thing, John Carpenter and Kurt Russell joined hands for this one as well, and the result was another cult classic. Number 8. The Running Man, 1987. In the dystopian world of 2017, the United States is under the iron grip of a totalitarian regime after a global economic collapse and a rather questionable election. To make the masses entertained, the government serves up a heaping dose of violent TV shows, with the crowd's favorite being The Running Man. In this twisted game show, criminals fight for their lives against ruthless mercenaries called stalkers for a chance at a government pardon and a tropical vacation. Now that is one reality TV show that I would definitely be interested in. Our hero, Captain Ben Richards, starts off as a dutiful police helicopter pilot, but when he witnessed an unarmed food riot and refused to open fire, he finds himself on the wrong side of the law. Blamed for a massacre that he didn't commit, Richards is sent to a prison labor camp where life is anything but a beach vacation. Being a man of action that Richards is, he escapes along with two resistance fighters, Harold Weiss and William Loughlin. He stages a daring escape and joins the rebel camp, but Richards sets off to find his missing brother. However, he gets arrested once again and is again falsely blamed for manslaughter at the airport. This is when Damon Killian, the smooth-talking and morally bankrupt host of The Running Man, hears about Richard and gets intrigued by his reputation and physical prowess. Killian sees a golden opportunity for some high-octane entertainment. He strikes a deal with Richards, compete in the deadly game show, and in return, Weiss and Loughlin will be set free. Once again, we have ourselves a good cop who's been put through some terrible circumstances. Interestingly, when Arnold Schwarzenegger ran for governor, he rode around in a campaign bus and named it after this film. While Paul Verhoeven's movie was a great satire and had some several undertones, The Running Man is at its heart a mean, cruel, nasty, and albeit funny send-up of television. Number 9. Cyborg, 1989. In a post-apocalyptic world plagued with the living dead, a group of resilient scientists in Atlanta race against time to find a cure. Their only hope lies in retrieving crucial data from a computer system in New York City. Paul Prophet is the brave volunteer who undergoes cyborg transformation to become the ultimate courier. Accompanied by his trusty bodyguard, Marshall Stratt, Pearl embarks on a perilous journey to obtain the precious information, but trouble lurks in the form of the ruthless Fender Tremolo and his gang of cutthroat pirates. Fender, the dastardly villain, craves the cure for his own greedy purposes, aiming to control its production entirely. Amidst a chaos showdown with the pirates, Stratt valiantly sacrifices himself, urging Pearl to find one of the legendary mercenaries, known as a Slinger, to ensure her safety. But when things seem dire, our heroine finds herself cornered, but is rescued in the nick of time by the charismatic Slinger, Gibson Rickenbacker. As Pearl unveils her desperate plight to Gibson, their moment of relief is short-lived as Fender's gang closes in. The confrontation intensifies, leading to a climactic clash of wills. Fender, with sinister intentions, demands Pearl's compliance or a certain demise on their journey to Atlanta. Will Pearl's resilience and Gibson's prowess be enough to outsmart Fender and save humanity from the clutches of despair? Instead of getting into the similarities between this movie and Robocop, I'll tell you about the interesting story behind its production. So, Canon, the production company behind the movie, had big plans for a He-Man sequel and a live-action Spider-Man flick as well. But alas, financial troubles struck. Deals with Mattel and Marvel fell through, and the dreams of seeing both He-Man and Spidey on the big screen together were soon shattered. Canon had already splurged a cool $2 million in costumes and set designs for the would-be blockbuster. So what's a struggling studio to do? Well, they had to recoup that cash, of course. And thus, out of the ashes of dashed superhero dreams, emerged a new project, Cyborg.
There's no soldier that day.
Number 10. Upgrade, 2018. This movie revolves around Gray Trace, a skilled auto mechanic living in a world where humans and computers merge. His wife, Asha, works for a company that dabbles in high-tech augmentations. When Gray asks for Asha's help returning a car, they stumble upon the enigmatic Aaron Keene, a tech genius with a mind-blowing creation up his sleeve, an AI chip named STEM that can outperform humans at almost anything. But then, life takes a dark turn when their self-driving car goes haywire, leading to a brutal attack that leaves Asha dead and Gray paralyzed from the neck down. Months later, Gray finds himself confined to a wheelchair, drowning in grief and frustration. The police investigation hits a dead end, only adding salt to Gray's wounds. Just when Gray's hope is fading, Aaron pays him a visit. With a tempting offer on the table, Aaron convinces Gray to become the first person ever to receive a revolutionary STEM implant. And then, boom, suddenly, Gray regains control of his body, and Aaron makes him swear to keep their collaboration hush-hush. But here's where things get interesting. STEM turns out to be more than just a fancy chip.
What do you think? What do you think I should do?
I would suggest that you rid the house of all your fingerprints.
It's got a voice, and it speaks directly into Gray's mind. Creepy, yes, but also intriguing. STEM proposes a wild idea. It can help Gray solve the mystery behind Asha's murder. Gray then dives headfirst into a dangerous hunt, with STEM as his eerie and ultra-smart sidekick. This movie is all about Gray, played by Logan Marshall Green, a wheelchair-bound vigilante with a high-tech twist who uncovers the truth, confronts his wife's killers, and finds himself entangled in a web of secrets and deceit. Sounds a bit like Robocop with an upgrade. Yes, I intended that. It's a high-stakes game where technology merges with the human spirit, giving birth to an unlikely hero. With twists, turns, and plenty of jaw-dropping moments, this gritty sci-fi flick is sure to keep you on the edge of your seat. Number 11. Elysium, 2013. This movie is set in a not-so-distant future, but Earth is a hot mess, overpopulated, sickly, and polluted. The haves and the have-nots couldn't be more divided. The wealthy elite reside in the luxurious space station Elysium, while the rest of humanity struggles to survive below. Spider, a slick hacker operating in the gritty slums of Los Angeles, gives the underprivileged a fighting chance by smuggling them onto Elysium to access the medbays, which are miraculous machines capable of curing any ailment. However, Delacourt, the iron-fisted defense secretary of Elysium, is not exactly a fan of sharing her utopian paradise with the riffraff from Earth. Meanwhile, back on Earth, we have our hero, Max DaCosta, a parolee just trying to make ends meet as a laborer for Armandine Corp. Life takes a nasty turn when Max gets a lethal dose of radiation. The clock is ticking and his prognosis is grim. But when Max teams up with Julio and strikes a deal with Spider, the sparks begin to fly. Max has to pull off a daring heist, stealing sensitive information from none other than his former boss, the bigwig, John Carlyle. And why? Because in exchange for this high-stakes job, Spider promises Max a one-way ticket to Elysium and also a date with the coveted medbase. Furthermore, Max undergoes a surgery surgery that turns him into a bona fide superhuman, with an exoskeleton that would make Iron Man jealous. Or maybe not so much. Matt Damon as Max, armed with his newfound strength and stamina, takes on Delacourt and her army of cronies, all while trying to secure his ticket to paradise. It is a story of survival, rebellion, and the fight for equality in a world where the haves would rather keep the have-nots in the shadows. I really don't think I need to say more about how well crafted this movie was, and what a wonderful job Neil Blomkamp did in directing it. Marvelous verdict. These movies are a fine escape from the mundane realities of everyday life. They whisk you away to imaginative worlds filled with explosive action, mind-blowing stunts, and eye-popping visual effects. Beyond the surface-level thrills, these films pack a punch with their thought-provoking themes and their social commentary. They tackle weighty subjects like corruption, power struggles, and also the perils of unchecked technology. Personally, I think what movies like Blade Runner and Robocop have done to Hollywood is irreversible, and in a good way. Or have you got a different opinion? Well, let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to hear it. And if you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to leave us a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, I'm Rylan. Have a good one and be safe.